Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will send a phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow. Whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Plotaholics podcast. One day late, several dollars short.
A day late, a buck short. I'm writing the Oh, sorry.
Is that Blink-182 song?
That was Blink-182, yeah.
I am still a little bit on the COVID struggle bus.
Yeah, man. I was just telling Shane to give everyone a peek behind the curtain. I was like, well, I'm glad you're on the mend because I'm not in the mood to find a permanent co-host. And over the last few years, I've grown quite fond of this bald ginger.
Yes.
So want to make sure he stays on the mortal coil. I don't want to have to go to an alternate universe to find another Shane Wilson.
Yeah, and we could have recorded yesterday. The timing was kind of wonky. I finally slept through the night last night, which was.
I mean, I've been there, man.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Who's had it or anything like the flu or whatever, like you sleep a lot and then you don't sleep at all.
Yeah.
And then when you
don't sleep at all is when you need it.
Yeah, when you finally find that sleep again, you have to embrace it. And so we pushed things off a little bit.
That day, hopefully you guys had the Last of Us content to sort of keep your appetite,
I've never been more interested in watching that show than I am this week.
I'll tell you what, man, this episode of Melinda D and I were just really transfixed. That episode got a double 0-shot rating from us.
Yeah, well, I've heard, and like from other writers and creators that I really admire, that it's maybe the most beautiful piece of television that has ever aired.
I absolutely agree. I'll tell you what, and I said this during my conversation with Melinda. In my younger days and, still sort of evolving days, I would, other than Tara and Willow in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I never really took, an LGBTQ plus relationship on television serious.
Right.
And then, I never watched The Birdcage because the subject matter didn't really speak to me. To Wong Fu, the subject matter didn't speak to me. But then when we got to the Arrowverse, I really felt that the LGBTQ plus romantic storylines felt very forced.
Right.
So
You've talked about how that feels shoehorned or like this can feel very agenda driven and can feel very disingenuous or whatever. Right.
Right. But then, after a while, it's like, it is what it is. It's the same thing whenever certain TV shows try to force interracial relationships.
Right.
It's the same thing. But I'll tell you what, this episode of The Last of Us and the Bill and Frank relationship, for me personally, is probably the best representation of an LGBTQ plus relationship since Willow and Tara.
Yeah, well, I feel like, and this is as someone who hasn't seen it, like it feels like it's uniquely tooled to like explore the humanity of that. So who's in that relationship matters so very little compared to the fact that it's just two humans clinging to each other.
Right. And one of the first times, and the one thing, and I believe we touched on this, is that television writing and Hollywood writing always does the same disgusting tropes when it comes to LGBTQ plus characters. The males have to be sort of effeminate, or the women have to be sort of quote unquote butch or whatever.
Yeah,
and it wasn't like
a very
that.
cool choice to have these two guys play.
Well,
these
Nick Offerman, like, I don't have a lot of experience with him. I didn't get into Parks and Rec yet. Now I want to watch everything that he has done.
That dude is so dynamic, like without being like loud and showy and you know what I mean. Like he is such a strong actor. He
really, and the thing is that there was a time that I sort of looked at him as just a bearded, gruff Steve Carell, but he looks to be so much more than. Even Steve Carell is more than just Steve Carell. We saw that with his when we did his
Crazy Stupid Love and a bunch of other things that he's done since The Office.
Right. So yeah, that relationship was so good, but also Pedro Pascal goes to further show how good he is.
Yeah, because I think Michelle and I are going to get into this when she gets back from her trip. So
okay, where's she going?
Well, she had a death in the family, so she had to fly out to Tennessee this morning.
Oh, sorry for that.
Yeah,
please convey my condolences.
Absolutely, and you know she that was another thing that like this morning we had to like push off another hour because I had to take her to Raleigh to the airport. And traffic up around Raleigh is always worse than you think it's going to be.
Well, y'all are also getting cold weather, and y'all don't know how to drive in rain, let alone cold.
It is rainy. It is not icy yet, thank God. But it's supposed to be coming, so we'll see. I'm going to batten down the hatches here this weekend, and
that makes sense, man.
Yeah,
that makes total sense.
But regardless,
irregardless,
Brian, this week we are discussing what has been heralded as one of the finest films of 2022. It just was nominated for a slew of Oscars, leading the pack. In fact,
I have had people on my social media telling me that this movie had better sweep its Oscars. And I'm going to reserve my thoughts and as we go through this, because I may or may not surprise you with my thoughts on this.
Okay.
May or may not. We'll see. And besides, there are certain movies, and you're probably one of the only people that have this effect, that I'll come into a discussion after watching a movie with one opinion, and then we'll talk, and then I'll be like, that makes better sense now. And then I'll 180 my shit.
Yeah.
So,
well, it'll be a tall order, but I will do my best, because do keep in mind that
you are not operating on full.
I'm not operating on full, and when I was watching this, I was operating on even less.
Yeah. Oh my God, the Shane Wilson fever dream that is his Everything Everywhere All at Once experience.
So I think I watched this movie, but
it might have been Troll 2 in reverse.
I feel like it's more likely that I just kind of experienced it in some way. I was present in the room while it was happening.
Somehow you got the Matrix and Troll 2 to play at the exact same time.
Yeah. So I think that if you were to boil this down to its most basic story and give us a synopsis of that, then we can start trying to get into like the more sci-fi-y part of it.
All right. This is going to be hard. All right. Evelyn Quan and her husband Waymond are in trouble with the IRS due to Evelyn's sort of fleeting ideas of business. Then she gets a mysterious message from not Waymond,
Alpha
Waymond, that she, in all of reality and the multiverse, are in danger by Chewbacca Makio. And I'm not just being facetious. I really forgot how to pronounce it.
For all sakes, for all intents and purposes, we can call it Jobu.
Yeah, Jobu Topalaka. Yeah, Jobu Tupak. There you go. Tupak. Jobu Tupak.
Yeah.
That's how I'll remember Jobu Tupak. So, all right. So, yeah. So that's the basics of it. Basically, you have this Chinese American immigrant family and their first generation daughter, Joy.
So, like, to me, at its heart, This is a
It's a
family drama.
family film. It's a family
Right.
drama. It's a bunch of family drama,
Yeah.
which is
Where,
very interesting. It's a
yeah.
very interesting take.
It's also like, so its version of the multiverse is based on like a fairly elementary version of it, where every time it's the chaos theory, where that every time in your life you're sort of born a blank slate, and then every time you make a choice in your life, you branch off into a bunch of different possibilities, right?
Right.
Um,
We've seen certain films that sort of go that route as well.
yeah.
I mean they touched on it ever so slightly in the MCU.
Hmm.
But there's also been different aspects where I believe in the butterfly effect as well. We
Right.
got that every single decision that we make leads to a different reality.
Right. And I personally, I feel like one of the strengths of the movie is how it represents that visually. I think it's very cool. Um, we encounter a handful of specific timelines here, or alternative timelines, right? So like one of the big sort of like change, like moments of change for the Evelyn character happens when she leaves home initially to marry Waymond, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so we sort of see what happens as a result of that. And then as a result of her staying, and as a result of a couple of different reasons why she might stay, or a couple of different paths that she might take.
Right.
And we see also, like, so you mentioned the IRS, and they're talking about her business expenses that she's trying to write off, and how she's writing off a bunch of hobbies.
Right.
All of these hobbies also come to fruition in other lives as actual careers. Like,
Right.
makes it to be like a famous singer in one life. She's a martial artist in one life, like all of these different things.
Yeah, she's an actress, she's a chef. She does like she's everything everywhere all at once, as the
Right.
title indicates.
Absolutely. And so what we see is we have this whole myriad of universes that have different versions of all of these characters that are in this family.
Mm-hmm.
And then this Evelyn makes contact with the Alpha universe. The Alpha universe is not meant to be confused with the first universe that existed. It is the first universe that's able to make contact with the other universes.
Correct. And that's something that we definitely have to make a point of, is that, yeah, Alpha Universe is not the very first one. It's just the one that's sort of
In
at the
fact, it is,
central.
at this particular moment, it would be really tough to pinpoint which was the original.
There's no way to tell at this point.
Right, because the Evelyn that we encounter is not necessarily the original, though she might be. But Alpha Waymond is traveling through, verse hopping through all of these different multiverses,
To
trying
get
to
to
find
her.
the Evelyn that can defeat Jobu Tupak.
Right. Because
This
you
great
find,
evil.
yeah, because you find out that, these scientists discover that they can borrow the talents and skills of each version of themselves in the multiverse, but they have to do certain things, which is a very, very interesting.
I like this idea,
It
right?
was a very cool idea. It's not just like in the Matrix where you download the information, or the one where Jet Li just
Right.
first travels and kills a version of himself to get stronger.
Right. So I believe that Everything Everywhere All at Once is like heavy on the nods to the Matrix, and we can talk about all of that. There's a ton of them, but what makes it different is that here this stuff isn't data. Uh,
No,
like,
you're
it's not there
borrowing
to be downloaded, right? Like, it's lived experience to be
just from
borrowed,
right.
right?
You borrow the lived experience.
Right. Which I think is very cool. And also, to be fair, in the Matrix, there are only two universes, right? There's
Yeah,
the
there's the
Matrix,
Matrix,
and
and then there's the real world.
right. But here, all of these universes are as real as any of the others.
Right.
Um,
There's no aspect of Prime 616, blah blah
right.
blah. They
Exactly.
just have different sort of identifications for the sake of
Right.
not having confusion.
And Jobu Tupak ends up
Oh,
being.
spoiler alert! Spoiler
Oh
alert!
yeah, hardcore
Spoilers!
spoiler alerts.
Hard spoiler
We
alerts. If
have
you
to get
have not
into
watched
it.
this movie yet, pause here at the 14-minute, 14:45-second mark. Check out the film. You can check it out on Showtime. It's currently streaming on Showtime. If you have that account, if you've got a Spotify student account like I do, then you can get Showtime streaming for free. Or if you have Paramount, do that little upgrade to Showtime or just rent it off of Amazon, however you do it. So, go ahead.
But it is worth watching regardless.
It is. I'll say this. Despite what I'm going to say my thoughts on this movie are, it is worth the experience. If anything, I'm just happy to see
something interesting.
Something interesting. But again, diversity, because how many times have we had these movies where it is only the cis Anglo-Saxon Protestant leads?
I love the fact that not only is our protagonist like a person of color, but also a woman who's older, right? I love like that she's
yes
a young gun.
Finally, us middle-agers are getting some love.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Jobu Tupak ends up being, here's your spoiler alert, Evelyn's daughter. All right.
Yes.
And
Alpha Evelyn forced her to do some insane verse jumping, and it drove her nuts. She ended up getting all of this power
where she could see everything
everywhere
all at once, and she can be everywhere all at once. And she sort of, and whenever she can see all of it, this is sort of the crux of the film, right? When she can see everything, it becomes apparent to her that none of it matters.
Yes.
That everything is meaningless, that life is meaningless, and that she also is able to witness all of this great pain that is done to her at the hands of her mother in the Alpha universe because of all of this verse jumping, but even in the one where our film originates, where she isn't like proud enough of her daughter to introduce her daughter to her father as a lesbian woman,
as
right?
An outed lesbian, yeah, because she just calls her girlfriend Becky a good friend,
right?
And that crushes her, and rightly so,
right? Because in that particular universe, that's probably the single most important thing in that moment to that young woman, and to have her mother sort of brush it to the side like that is, you know, you want your mom to be in your corner, right? And she's not, and so they are having it out on that plane at the same time that Evelyn is having it out with Jobu Tupak, who is this sort of almost like multi-dimensional warlord at this point, right?
With a bunch of
incredibly powerful. So, like, one of the things that I love. So, okay, confession. I love the absurd. Like when I was in college, some of my favorite work was surrealism and theater of the absurd, right? Which is what all of this is sort of based in, right? Existentialism is the acknowledgement of the absurdity of all of it, right? And so I love plays like Waiting for Godot, where you have these two guys for 2 full acts of a play just kind of hanging out in a park waiting on this guy named Godot to show up, who's apparently God. And then he never does, right? Like the whole play, like 2.5 hours, they're just like kicking it, waiting on this dude to show up, and he never does. Like that's the theater of the absurd. That's the existentialism of like, we're waiting for God to show up to save us, to like do something for us. And like, ultimately, like he's not coming, right? Like it's us to like take action or whatever it is, however you want to read that. Right. And here we have the same thing. And Jobu Tupak is able to weaponize the absurd in such an entertaining way. Like when she is in there fucking up those guards and like dancing with them and turning them into confetti and shit. I'm like, bro,
that is hilarious.
So fucking dope to watch her do that. And
that's at one point where I'm just like, the thing is, I do appreciate, now granted, I don't know all the fancy titles, that's your arena. I know what I like and I know what I don't like. And at certain parts, I was like, this is cool. Yeah. And then I'm like, all right, this is getting a little bit redundant.
I love hot dog fingers. I love
the dick fingers. Those the butt plugs had me laughing my ass off, no pun intended. Because it's like, you know, I make jokes. Sharon and I'll just be sitting around and I'll just make random idiotic jokes that are just, and as soon as those butt plugs came on screen, Sharon just gives me a look and just shakes her head because she knew what was running through my mind.
Was Chekhov's gun, right? Like it was there in the first act. It's going to go off in the third act or go up.
And it did, literally.
What I think tonally is so cool about a movie like this is that it's not super self-serious like The Matrix, where it like gets super philosophical and stays there. and never ever smiles. Like, there is fun to be had in this movie.
Yeah,
And
you get the wink, wink, like
yeah, and it is all in the acknowledgement of the absurdity of life, right? So the film is in two parts. The first part is everything, and
Yes.
then
Three
you have the
parts.
second part of it. Oh, right, yeah, three
Yeah,
parts.
it's everything, and then everywhere, and then all at once. This movie feels like Saints Row meets Saints Row 2 meets either Saints Row 2, 3, and 4 meet The Matrix, meet True Lies, that's the Jamie Lee Curtis effect. Meets Big Trouble in Little China meets the Transformers.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to argue that. So, okay, I think that part one is very easy to follow and fun.
It's dangerously boring, but it's really good world building. We're learning about the Quan family.
Mm-hmm.
We're learning that we find out
that mundane sort of everyday kind of blah blah blah. That's almost like a prologue of the film, right? Like,
right. Waymond is
because it's about 20 something minutes in that we get the cut screen to like part one.
Correct.
Everything.
Yeah, Waymond is this sort of fun-loving, doting father who's kind of a clown.
And I love that he puts googly eyes on shit.
It is so funny. I've always got time for the googly eyes. I love it. Evelyn is really, really sort of, she's very, I don't want to say pragmatic, but she's very, very serious. This needs to be done. It has to be this way.
Very serious, yeah.
And then Joy is just, she's their college-bound daughter.
Yeah, she's a teenager growing up in America.
Yeah. She's unhappy with, you can tell from the moment she's on screen that she's unhappy.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. And then we start when we get to where they're going to the IRS, and we find out that the daughter was supposed to take them but doesn't go, and this, that, and the other, but they got their father with them. And then you see Waymond, Alpha Waymond takes over regular Waymond,
mm-hmm.
and just starts to break it down. And that's when we're like, huh?
Yeah, gives her these earpieces, and then gives her instructions to like swap her shoes on her feet, and then imagine being in the janitor's closet and hit the green button. And so this is the first time that we see what verse hopping is, right? And what we see is that, so there's this team, like your guy in the chair, right? In the Alpha universe, that can locate a parallel universe where you've learned a particular skill that might help you in a current situation. But in order to springboard you into that, you have to do something out of character, right? You have to do something very weird to, like, something that would deviate your current trajectory in such a way that could springboard you over there.
Correct. Like in this case, Evelyn had to put her shoes on the wrong feet.
Right. Sometimes it's like eating gum from the bottom of the table, or eating chapstick, or
that was so gross.
Can we have a moment for the fanny pack fight scene?
That fanny pack fight scene, first of all, man, shout out to a guy who has been a part of my life since I was a kid. Ke Huy Quan, man. I knew him as a kid as Short Round in Indiana Jones and Data from the Goonies. Man, this dude is so cool in this movie. Oh my God. I have never been truly a fanny pack aficionado, but now that I know that a fanny pack can be a weapon, I want a fanny pack.
Yeah.
Bro,
when he finished it and like wrapped it back around himself and fastened it, I was like, yo, that's the smoothest shit I think I ever saw.
Dude, The Rock wishes he could have pulled off a fanny pack like
that, man. Dude, like, he crushed that shit. That was such a badass scene, though.
It was so good. It was so good.
And you realize that what they're doing, and we've already sort of mentioned this, is they're springboarding into these other multiverses or whatever in order to learn a skill from a different version of themselves.
Yes, and then they have that skill, and it's not borrowed data. It's their data, just not their data.
Right, exactly. And what's really interesting about that, and this is what makes this, I feel like, such a cool thing that The Last Jedi almost got us to, that J.J. Abrams completely erased. And that's the fact that this Evelyn is uniquely tooled to beat Jobu Tupaki because she's not overly specialized in something. Like, because she's bad at everything, she's perfect to learn all of it.
Right. Like,
She's
just
like
somehow
she's great, right?
yeah, somehow she's just able. And I love how we see these different universes too. Like, I really appreciated the fact that they're just two rocks, and it's just like, are we rocks?
Oh my god,
Like,
I want to talk about the rocks because that shit is so fucking beautiful.
it really was like, yeah,
that exchange, but that's sort of in the second part of it where she's chasing her through these different.
Yeah, it's like the second part, toward the end of the second part, going into the third part. But yeah, so shout out to Jamie Lee Curtis, who is, I don't even want to say she's unrecognizable, but for what we know of Jamie Lee Curtis, she's unrecognizable. She plays the auditing agent.
Yeah, and whenever she's like the evil version of that,
she's ripped up because you see when her evil version.
Yeah, she reminds me of like it's like Agent Smith.
Yes,
he was like crossbred with those like mutant monsters in Secret of the Ooze.
Yeah, pretty much. Because now here's the
she walks like.
Just the movement.
Yeah, right. Like her movement is very, no, she's great in this.
Dude, Jamie Lee Curtis, man, she must do DDP yoga because she's good.
Yeah.
she's like so
like, and those fight scenes are so rugged. Like whenever Evelyn has to download the martial artist part, right?
Right.
She finally gets it, and the knee is like coming at her face. Bro, and like that whole thing is so good.
That was so good. And I'll tell you what. From a person who has some combat training and fighting experience, when you can see your opponent's movements moving that slow, it's a sense of perception that is very, very hard to describe, especially if you're going up against someone who is very talented with good hand speed. It's not so much they're slowed down; it's your perception is so up.
Yeah.
That it looks
like,
slowed.
When people talk about like football slowing down for them, right? Like you're so good and you're so attuned to the game that everything moves at a little bit slower pace.
Right.
You're making decisions faster.
Right. It's kind of like the best way that I've seen it shown is in the Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man, when Peter he experiences everything around him before Flash Thompson could sucker punch him.
Right.
And it's just like everything's happening. It's like, oh shit.
Right.
And then move. That's exactly what it's like. I remember I was in a fight with a guy, and we're just pounding on each other, and he's swinging from the fences, but the swing was hard and fast, but it was like I could just see it.
Well, it's that wind up that you like
the wind up did it, but when you're getting punched in the face and you're in that zone of, well, I'm gonna punch you harder. Yeah, that you see the fist coming all the way back, but when it's coming like that, it moves faster than you realize.
Oh, for sure.
But it's like there was no sound. Like it was like my brain broke up all the audio, and all I could see was him and hear his breathing. And as the punch would come, I could just roll through it. It's amazing. So when she downloads the martial artist talent, I was like, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
And she just like pushes that knee out of the way and like spins Jamie Lee Curtis around. Like, it's
now, the one thing that I definitely want to throw into is that when these people are evil, they have black circles on their head, which is a very, very interesting nod that you find out what it is later. And that's more of that rule of the absurdity that you were talking about.
Right.
Because it is silly and it's funny. And even Sharon and I sort of shared a look. But it's like, but you know what, man? When you're a kid and you deal with trauma, you find ways. There are things that are just comforting.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a lot of what Tupac Jobu did.
Well, in Jobu Tupak built the everything bagel, which essentially is like a black hole.
Right.
And she calls it the everything bagel because you got to call it something, right? But at the same time, like, it is a weapon. It is, and what we'd have to understand is that Jobu Tupak doesn't come from our universe, like
correct,
from another place, and she's created this thing with the intent to like wipe all of these things out, right? Because she's suffered
Correct.
too much pain at the hands of her mother across all of these universes, because as we've said, she's uniquely tooled to experience all of it, to see all of it all the time, always, right?
And it's probably and you know it's driving her crazy. Well,
Yeah. All of
it's
the
just
different, imagine like hundreds of thousands of your parents doing the worst shit to you they possibly could over and over and over again. And you have to watch it all.
reliving aspects of my upbringing is hard enough.
Right.
Having to see it thousands and thousands and
sure
thousands of times over.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And I'm sure that there were versions of it that were more positive, but
oh, absolutely. But the negative always outweighs the positive.
So we come to the conclusion of the first part, and the credits roll on this film that is being watched by one of the Evelyns,
which is amazing. Which was such a good diversion, by the way.
Right.
And that was so good.
Right, because she's just dead in the movie. And you think like, oh, she died? And that was it.
It was like, well, that was quick. I thought I still had an hour left.
Then we're in the second part, and this is where things start to sort of crescendo in this really wild, inexplicable way, where it feels a lot like Evelyn is chasing Jobu through these different universes. There's this moment in this section that is, I think, the most maybe, and like, this is why this movie is a little frustrating, because it can be incoherent, and that's part of the absurdity of it. But there's a moment that is like maybe one of the most beautiful things I've seen in cinema in a long time. And it's when Waymond pleads with them to stop fighting.
Yeah. Can't you just be kind?
That moment, man, like made me emotional. It was so
I couldn't help it. I started to tear up as well, because
and then to watch her fight people with literal kindness, like giving them the thing that they wanted or whatever. Like that's when that was her like Neo, like unlocking the multiverse thing, right? Because now she's able to see everything about these people and give them exactly the thing that they needed to like make them content in that moment. And she did that for all of them. And it was just this like really beautiful thing. But his pleading with them to just stop fighting, why can't we just be kind? It was word kind that like really moved me.
I think kindness is something. Kindness is, even just saying the word kindness and kind are just, they're really just nice words. Like, you can't, when you use those words by themselves, be kind, not mankind, just be kind.
Yeah.
Like, you can't find something negative about that. Because, like, here's the thing with love, you can weaponize the word love. You can weaponize it. People do.
Yeah.
Kindness, you can't weaponize that.
And it was like, and I'm thinking, bruh, like, what a ballsy move in an action flick, in the climax, to make the argument for kindness. Mm-hmm. And so from there to the end, you get this really interesting crescendo where we see Evelyn again relive that earlier moment with her father, and she introduces
Becky
as the girlfriend, right?
Right. But it still wasn't enough, because at this point, Joy is so consumed with hurt and hate that it's too little too late.
Right.
But we also learn part of the reason why with the contention between Jamie Lee Curtis's character and Evelyn's character is because in another reality they're in love.
Right.
And Evelyn hurt her.
Yeah.
But they're also dick finger lovers.
Well, hot dog finger.
Oh, I thought they were dicks. But, okay.
So yes, there's that. And then so there's this other really beautiful shot, right, where Joy is trying to go into the bagel, and Evelyn is holding on to her, and then the camera pans around to reveal Waymond holding on to her, and then the grandfather in his robot suit holding on to all of them. And I thought, what a beautiful fucking shot of family where all of them are like,
they're all on different, they're in yeah, they're in a different sort of mindset. They're in a different place.
They all like Waymond is filing for divorce. Evelyn doesn't understand Joy. Joy doesn't understand Evelyn. The grandfather clearly doesn't but they still love and they cling to each other.
What really hurt me with the father even was when she saw her birth and they were like, "It's a girl. I'm sorry." And he's such a dick to her the whole time. But to see him save his son-in-law and in turn save his daughter and then in turn save his granddaughter. Yeah. It's beautiful. And it goes to show that family, no matter what, that is what family is supposed to be.
Right. And it's about like it is in a much large sort of macroscopic way about the internalization of all of our lived experiences and how we are the product of all of these different things. And that if we can open ourselves up to all of these different experiences, we can grow and become more like full versions of ourselves, more complex versions of ourselves that can see more of the world at one time, that can see more than just ourselves, right? That can see the pain on our child's face when she's hurting and try to do right by her, you know, like all of that stuff. And I want to talk about that scene with where they're rocks, like in that universe where they're just rocks.
It is so
fucking good.
It really is. I especially really just love the fact, like, what is this? We're rocks. This is a reality where life hasn't kickstarted yet. So we're rocks. This is like, just shut up and be a rock. Like, that was so cool.
Just be a rock. Like, it was so, that's so good, dude. Like, and I don't know how to explain that, like, how to explain the poignancy of that scene.
I think that was the first time that they actually had a time to just listen
quiet,
to
right?
each
like
other.
There was no music. It was just wind blowing. They were on the side of this thing. And then the Evelyn rock is like, I'm coming to get you, right? And she starts like moving across. And then Joy starts running away. And like she rolls off the side. This is the quote though, right? For most of our history, we knew the earth was the center of the universe. We killed and tortured people for saying otherwise. That is, until we discovered that the earth is actually revolving around the sun, which is just one sun of trillions of suns. And now look at us, trying to deal with the fact that all of that exists inside of one universe out of who knows how many. Every new discovery is just a reminder we're all small and stupid. Like that's the movie's thesis right there, right? Is that everything that we learn should show us how much we don't know, that we're all just small and stupid. We don't matter.
I think that was it Socrates that said that the only true wisdom is knowing that we know nothing.
Yeah, I'm not sure who it was.
It was either Plato or Socrates.
It's one of those things that, like, and you know, this is somebody who's done a lot of education as well. Like, the more you know you don't know.
Exactly. Before I started going for my master's, I swore I knew so much about everything. Then I started doing my master's, and it's like, I didn't know shit. I'm not going for my doctorate. That's just not going to happen.
I have been made plenty aware of my ignorance. I don't need to know more about how dumb I am.
Yeah, and I'm kind of afraid to get my doctorate because I don't want to turn into an asshole. Because I've noticed that, I'm not saying that everyone that has a doctorate is an asshole, but I've run into a few people that have their doctorate degrees, and you know they're not very kind.
I think they're mostly just miserable.
Probably, but don't take it out on me.
Right. No, I agree completely.
I didn't make you do it to yourself. That's like giving yourself 4 paper cuts in the webs of your hand and then looking at me like I'm the asshole. I didn't make you. You did it so you could get the superpowers.
I appreciate the return to the googly eyes as she puts like the third eye, which is like usually used to indicate enlightenment, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, what a cool way to like bring that all around, because we come to learn that like Waymond is the one that's like putting these googly eyes on everything, and this is like her acceptance now. She's accepted her daughter, now her acceptance of Waymond for all of his quirks,
right?
Because like as much as Jobu Tupaki's anger at her mother is from her ability to see everything everywhere all at once, her mother's now ability to see all of that has changed her for the better. it's that she's been able to see the pain that she's caused.
And now she's trying to do better and trying to be better.
Yes. Now, I can't like that's sort of like the overarching thing, right? We cannot talk about this movie without talking about Rakakuni.
Oh my god, that is just so freaking. That was so funny.
Yo, I
Oh
love
my god.
the shitty animatronic. Like that was the best. Is like he's just like.
Are you talking about Ratatouille? No, it's not Ratatouille. It's Rakakuni. And they're just like going
bro.
with it.
And that dude was so upset. He was like, Rakakuni.
And even the raccoon just like.
Right. And he's just like grabbing his hair. Like that shit was so funny, dude.
I really just like it's the whole aspect of that is just so funny. Like, and that goes again to the absurdity, the butt plugs,
it's a movie and we should say the butt plugs come in as one of those like launches, right? Like as one.
That's what allowed them to get powerful. So the one dude is dropping trowel, trying to sit on the sign.
When that homie like jumped in there, like.
And he's already ass naked. He's ass down naked with everything blurred out, which is a nod to.
It's so funny. Like it's all. Really... The reason I love that shit so much is because like it's such a like. Look how stupid these movies are, right? Like these action movies is like, look how ridiculous this is, right?
Right. Like, so we can take Arnold Schwarzenegger seriously in Commando. This dude just goes on an island all by himself and destroys everything, and nothing happens.
And the thing that this movie shows is like hot dog fingers look stupid, but that doesn't diminish their love, right? Like they love each other. And these dudes put butt plugs in their butts in order to learn how to fight or whatever. But it's no more stupid than anybody else that has learned how to fight in an 80s like montage.
Dude, those
in like 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Like it's like that's why I love this movie is that it like leans into that chaotic like absurdism so much and it never blinks.
Right.
And then it does give you like several moments of just like real poignant emotional connection, like with the rocks and with Waymond's plea for kindness. Like there's a lot to love here. I can understand why it isn't everybody's thing for sure.
Right.
It's not, but it does a lot of really cool things visually. Like I thought that the scene where she like downloaded the like sign twirler. That shit was so badass, dude.
Right. And it's funny how your talents can really be used for other things, you know? And
that's what the springboard thing is all about, right? Is like seeing the existing world in a different way.
Right. And I really think that we have to talk about Gong Gong for a minute. James Hong, 93 years, and this dude is still just rocking it. He came on screen. I look at Sharon. I was like, ooh! I was like Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Ooh, ooh, ooh! Because she was like, what? And I was like, it's Lopan. It's David Lopan, but he's not wearing. Is he wearing his Lopan makeup? No, it's really him. Oh my god, it's Lopan. But what I really like is that he doesn't hog the screen.
No.
But when he's on screen,
he commands it, right?
He commands it. And everyone does a really, really good job at stepping up their game. That's one of those instances in certain films where, remember, I think we talked about this when you and I talked briefly about the live action Aladdin remake.
Yeah.
Is that Naomi Scott was so good that she made the guy that played Aladdin look bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that he was bad.
Right.
She was just that good. And you know that you've got good direction, good chemistry, and good acting when you can have a legend on screen and you're able to keep up. So, I'm trying to think what else. I mean, and I feel bad. We haven't talked as much about Jamie Lee Curtis because she's another one who, when she was on screen, man, you paid attention to her. But she was a background.
Is really great. I think Michelle Yeoh is fantastic.
Yeah, she is so great. She is. I've been trying to figure out exactly where I've seen her before, but when I looked in her filmography, I don't believe.
I mean, is it Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon?
I've never watched Crouching Tiger.
Oh, really?
I never watched it. I don't know why.
Shanghai. I'm sorry, Shang-Chi.
Oh, she was in Shang-Chi? Who was she in Shang-Chi?
Ying.
Oh, she was in Guardians of the Galaxy too. That's where I seen her from. Oh, Ying Nan. Okay, that was the aunt, right?
I think so.
All right. So I've seen her in that, and I've seen her in Shang-Chi, and I've seen her in Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, that's where I've seen her at. She is really, really. I'll tell you what, man. Asian actors and actresses. I really want to start like just finding some of my favorite Asian actors and actresses and going back in their filmographies, especially in their native countries, because a lot of them, they get their starts in their native countries. I want to start watching some of their performances there. I want to start watching more foreign film just to experience it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to see what it's like. But no, Michelle Yeoh is this cast, period. Like I can't find a weak link in this cast. I can't.
And I would say that like I said, it's not going to be everybody's thing. But it is so wildly imaginative and daring, where other multiverse movies from last year played it safe and turned out super boring. And like this is a ride, right? And you have to be willing to like take it, you know, like it's not going to be an easy ride to take in a lot of ways. But I feel like the experience on the other side is worth it.
I agree. I feel like I'm glad that we watched this movie. This is a movie, once again, and you already said it, is not going to be for everybody. And movies really aren't supposed to be for everybody.
Yeah, that's how you get like the really watered down MCU stuff, right? It's like because you're trying to appeal to everybody.
Yeah, and that's really where the MCU has fallen down over the last during this past phase, and even some of the phases before that. Like the earlier films were the ones where it was at, and as it's grown,
the earlier
only
films all felt like distinguishable from each other. Yeah,
they were their own thing.
Like, that's an Iron Man movie, and that's a Captain America movie, and that's a Thor movie.
Yeah, now everything is the same. Well, Wakanda Forever, which is now streaming today, it should be streaming today on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and anything that Taika Waititi touches is always going to feel a little different, but at the same time, they're going to force it through the Feige mold, and like it's going to feel different, but ultimately that third act is going to always feel the same.
Right. Oh yeah, Wakanda Forever is streaming now on Disney Plus. So if you have not seen it yet, Shane Wilson, you can watch it today.
Excellent.
But yeah, now. And I wanted to take a minute to talk about James Gunn for a second, since we brought up the MCU. James Gunn has.
Should we put a bun on a bun?
Let's. Well, dude, we don't know what they do in another universe. Where we're
That's
talking
true. Let's
about
put a bun on it.
Let's put a bun on this. So yeah, let's put a bun on it, and then let's talk a little bit about some of the big news, because we remember when we used to do that. We used to go live and talk about this stuff. We did be doing that.
All right, we'll be back.
Let's button this.
Here's Chicken Slop Slinger Smiley. We'll put a bun on it.
The Plotaholics rating system for the movies is a pretty simple system. Basically, they rate movies based on how many shots it takes to get through them. So if you got a good movie and you get through it all the way sober, then it takes 0 shots to get through the movie. And then if you got a really bad movie, then it could take up to 5 shots to get through the whole thing. I think you can try to figure out the middle part yourself. So, what can I get you?
I enjoyed the shit out of it. I'm giving it a 1 shot because I feel like they could have done a little bit more legwork to flesh out some of these ideas, and like to especially in that second part of it where things get really sort of chaotic. Just slow it down a little bit. Movie is 220. Could have been 2.5, and I think it would have probably been better for it.
Yeah,
a little more exposition on it at a couple of places. They do a nice job overall in the first half, but a little bit more at the end could have helped tie things together a bit. That's my biggest complaint. I had a blast.
I'm giving this a 2-shot rating.
And I do believe, I will say this, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I do believe that it will be better upon rewatches.
And that was what I was, and that's part of the reason why I'm giving it the 2-shot rating, because I've got to rewatch this to really know if I really like this movie or not.
Yeah.
Did I have a good time on that initial watch? Absolutely. But this is one of those movies that I have to watch more than once to see if I really like it. Am I going to rush to rewatch it anytime soon? Probably not. I might watch it in like the next month or so because, the Oscars are coming and blah, blah, blah. So I want to watch it again to see if it deserved to beat out whoever it beat out, or did it deserve to lose to who it lost to?
Yeah.
But on the surface, what I loved about it, I love the representation of this Asian American family. I love the fact that they use the different dialects of the Chinese, of the the Asian language. Where they switch from Cantonese to what was it? Cantonese to Mandarin. Thank you. It was escaping me. So it was really, really good. I love the idea of this being just a sillier version of The Matrix.
Yeah.
I love the fact
Matrix is a little too self-serious.
Way too self-serious, way too pretentious in some ways. But I also like the fact, though, that they also addressed that doing all of this stuff is very, very taxing on the body, and you have to eat.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that as well. So, this is a resounding 2 shots. This isn't a 2-shot rating to say this was not a good movie. This is a 2 shots of saying, let me revisit this to see.
Yeah.
You can think a movie is good and still not like it.
Right. Yeah. That's fair.
I mean, let's just there are certain movies that are considered very, very good movies that I just don't like. I recognize why they are good.
Right. Okay. So that's my relationship with The Godfather, right? Yeah, it's a great film, but I have no desire to sit through that thing again.
Right. Where me, I'll watch The Godfather once, maybe twice.
I would much rather sit through this multiple times.
I hear you. And honestly,
that's our different proclivities, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's good. The cast is great. I love the philosophy. It's just, I don't know if I like it. I love it, but I don't like it.
I like that. That's good. And that's kind of the whole thing, right?
Yes.
Everything everywhere all at once. That's kind of the uncertainty of all of it is kind of the whole point.
And that's actually where I'm at. I love it. I don't know if I like it, but I'm okay with it.
There are all of the parts are very cool.
Yes.
But some of those parts may not quite do it for you.
Yes, there we go. That's exactly it. So real quick. Huh?
Tell me about James Gunn.
Yeah, so James Gunn dropped a video yesterday where he's talking about the state of the DC universe. One of the things that he said is movies like The Batman that exists outside of the DC universe is going to have a different title altogether.
Elsewhere, right?
Yeah, DC Elsewhere or whatever.
Yeah.
But what they're going to try to do is they want to have uniformity in the sense that the same actors are going to they're going to star as their characters, voice their characters in animation and in video games. And I'm kind of okay with that. They're really expanding. It seems to me like James Gunn and company. Because look, when you sit as the head of this conglomerate that is DC, and let's just be real, DC has a lot more going for it as far as with Warner Brothers. They have the gaming aspect. They have all of this. So they can do all this stuff. Marvel is still trying to fix itself. Yeah, Disney might own Marvel, but Sony owns a lot of Marvel's more important stuff.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man. And that's the one thing that DC has on Marvel is that when they release games and movies and stuff, they don't have to go into agreements with other studios to get their stuff done. They can just do it.
Yeah.
And I think, me personally, that this is going to be nothing but good for those of us who are fans of the superhero genre, because now it's going to force Marvel to get back to basics and get outside of this formulaic rut that they've been stuck in. Because James Gunn, at least, and he's proven it with Suicide Squad, Peacekeeper, and the Guardians of the Galaxy films, that even when he was forced to be in that Feige mold, he could still do it different.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what Marvel's going to have to do, that, or they're going to all this glitz and glamour that they've had for 15 years now is going to go away, and they're going to be right in the same spot that they were in before. Disney might end up selling Marvel to freaking Sony, so Sony can have all the control and ruin it further.
Yeah. I don't know, man. There's been much talk over the last couple of weeks about whether or not we're all superheroed out, and I honestly am. Like, I am. I need more of the stuff that we've watched this month, and less of that. I need more Nope, more The Unbearable Weight of Limitless Talent. I need more Everything Everywhere All at Once. I need more of all of that than superheroes at this point.
I agree. Now, does that mean, like, honestly, I still have not had a chance to go and see Avatar yet, and I really, really want to, because hopefully I'll be able to go see it this weekend. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, because even though that movie will ring similar in a lot of ways to like the big action blockbuster type movies, it's still going to be made with like more care.
Right. James Cameron, for as much of a dick as he comes off as, he's a perfectionist.
It's an artisanal superhero movie.
Right. Now, does that mean that I don't want to see Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania? I'm big on Jonathan Majors. If I could get if I could cast any of my books with actors, Bryce Creed would either be played by Winston Duke or Jonathan Majors. Matter of fact,
Jonathan Majors, right? Like, give me more Lovecraft Country and less Ant-Man and the Wasp. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, like, I couldn't get through. I couldn't finish.
But you can acknowledge the quality of it.
Oh, absolutely. It was beautifully done. Jonathan Majors is such a talent. I can't wait for Creed 3 because I want to see him and Michael B. Jordan on screen together.
Right. Give me more
of that. Looks so compelling.
Yeah, I don't seek out, but I also never really sought out the Marvel stuff until the end of like phase 3.
I hear you. Yeah, because I remember we've talked about that at length.
Like, I still haven't seen all of them.
Sadly enough, I've watched all of it. Well, not sadly enough. Some of those experiences were good experiences. Other experiences were like,
I haven't seen Iron Man 2 or 3. I haven't seen The Winter Soldier. I haven't seen any Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I haven't seen anything. I didn't see this. I didn't see The Lost World, which I know isn't a loss. I did not see Civil War. I did not see Age of Ultron. I really did not watch a lot of those movies.
I would say if you're going to watch anything on that list, I think Civil War just for the introduction of Peter Parker, because that scene, because that and Winter Soldier, Winter Soldier and Civil War, I think are ones that you might want to try. And then
I agree.
If you appreciate Peacekeeper, then I think that you would appreciate Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, and I got nothing. Like, I don't know why I missed all of those.
Because it's just not your thing.
Well, yeah, that's it. And I think that like I think after Iron Man, maybe I did see Iron Man 2, and maybe after that I was like, bruh, like, because it was like Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Captain America, like all came out sort of boom, 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 and I was like, yo, I'm done with this. Like how
too much.
And then I didn't watch any more until the Avengers.
Right.
And then I started watching sort of the team up movies, and I was pumped about Civil War. I just never got around to it.
No, I hear you. I think, honestly, Marvel, the reason why we're so superheroed out is the same reason why we're Star Wars out. You're just throwing so much out there that isn't super high quality. Like, remember how I said before, I only have time for the Bad Batch. Well, I've missed the last 2 episodes of the Bad Batch. Why? Because I'm just tired.
Yeah, and honestly, like, when you're watching something like The Last of Us, do you even feel like you're missing anything if you're not watching the Bad Batch?
Not at all. I really don't.
Or The Mandalorian, who, like, I don't even really give a shit about the 3rd season of that, and I was high on season 1 of that.
I have no give a fuck whatsoever to watch The Mandalorian.
After the finale of season 2 of The Mandalorian, I could do without ever watching another episode.
Matter of fact, I think I already saw season 3 of The Mandalorian. It was called Book of fucking Boba Fett.
Yeah, that was
I'm
Mandalorian
done.
2.2.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm essentially. Here's the thing, and I saw someone post this on Twitter yesterday. They're imploring Disney to give us the Knights of the Old Republic era stuff. Honestly, I love the Old Republic era way better because there's no Skywalkers. But even still, I think Star Wars as a whole, I'm just done with it. If you want to bring me back into Star Wars, this is what you got to do. Fast forward 100 years into the future, kill off the fucking Skywalker bloodline. Kill off the Skywalker bloodline. And quit giving me all of this Force user shit. I want to see the regular stuff. I want the seedy underbelly. I want that. I want the regular folk stuff. I don't want the space wizards.
2,000 years in the future, after an enlightenment, after like there's no more religious sects, right? Like,
yes,
we don't have Jedi and Sith anymore. Like, we're past that. We've evolved past that.
Right. And like, yeah, I'm all for that. And then you just have Force users.
Yeah.
Some are good, some are evil, but there is no religion.
They also have no religious. They also have no political power.
Right. They're just people.
Yeah.
They're just people. Like, hell. But then, of course, if you do it like that, now these are the superheroes. So now you've got the Avengers.
Honestly, give me another Skywalker movie, but let's have all the Skywalkers be so fucking old that they're shitting their old diapers. And somebody else is having to take care of like C-3PO's over here changing Luke's diaper and some shit like that. Like, let's really fucking make these bitches angry, right? Like,
there was
Luke Skywalker doesn't shit his pants.
Yep. So
my Luke Skywalker fucks his sister.
Yeah, that's really what I want more of. All right, so I guess now's a good time to wrap this bad boy up. Plus, I have an appointment.
All right, well, if y'all would like, rate, review, subscribe, etc., we will be back next week with something, and we'll know about the same time you do.
Yep. Take care, everybody.
Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will send a phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow. Whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.